Okay.
All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the Million Dollar Relationships Podcast. And Tarlise, welcome. I am so excited to have you here today. This is going to be
Thank you for having me.
yeah.
I'm excited for this conversation. This will be good.
Same. And so, you know what? I'm just going to give a heads up really quick because we've had this widespread storm in our area. And so right now I am using the hotspot on my cell phone to be able to connect to the internet because we don't have internet. So if for whatever reason I glitch or anything right now, it looks totally cool. But if we do glitch, I'll be back and everything will be cool and we'll be fine here and stuff. So, but Tarlise, I am really excited to have this conversation with you today. And you know, the goal of this podcast right from the beginning, it's always been twofold. The first part is to give entrepreneurs like yourself the opportunity to share your story, your experience around this, and honor somebody who has had such a profound impact on your life and on your business. And then on the other side of the coin, for the listeners, I just want to inspire them. I want to inspire them to place an intentional focus on creating more real, meaningful, rewarding, and profitable relationships. And so, what I'd like to do is just kind of start off by turning it over to you to let you share a little bit of your background, what you do, who you serve, what inspires you to do what you do, and we'll just set a little bit of context and we'll start there, Tarlise.
Cool. Awesome. Well, my first, I guess you'd say, real profession, I was in commercial finance and I did that for about 8 years. It was cool, but it was really stressful. And when the market went down, people weren't really buying residential. So they weren't really into commercial either. And so I thought, what else can I do? What would make me happy? What do I like? So I started going around to businesses in the area and I said, hey, I can help you guys with social media. I'm really good at relationships. I can set up partnerships. Like, how can I help? How can I get your business out there? So I pivoted from real estate and commercial real estate and finance to social media. And I started building a business and building relationships there. Through that, I met a lot of people that were, I launched an Instagram program. This was like 10 years ago. I launched an Instagram program. I was teaching people how to do things online. But what I realized that people were actually coming to me about is they were stressed out about, where do I find my community? How do I talk to other people? What if this doesn't land with people? And their confidence was really low. And so after working with hundreds of people, just them questioning themselves, I realized these people are stressed out. If they weren't so stressed out, they could have a lot better business. And so I got certified as a stress management coach. And that's what I've been doing for almost a decade now. And it's funny because people say, what's your niche? And I'm like, I don't really have a niche. I worked with, high powered individuals like emergency room nurses, divorce attorneys, ex-military, brick and mortar businesses. I work with actors, all these people that have high stressful professions, and I help them calm down, find more fun and profits in their business. So I have focused pretty much the past decade on helping entrepreneurs and business, professionals have more fun and less stress in their life. My brand is called Body Brains Bank. And the reason is I realize your body, your mindset, and your bank account are all correlated. If you're not doing well, if you're not feeling good mentally, then your body is probably not doing well. If you're not moving your body and getting exercise, there's a chance that your bank account isn't doing well. And so those are the three areas that I focus on. But I've worked with thousands of people at this point across 21 time zones. And it's very interesting because one thing I've noticed is stress does not discriminate. It doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter how much money you make, where you're born, where you come from. We all have stress. And so it's been so much fun to me to be able to help people have more fun and really work on their mindset so that they can create a ripple effect. It's funny because people come to me and they think, oh, I need help with my business. And really they'll come and thank me. Wow, I'm spending more time with my family and I'm actually enjoying it. Or, wow, I'm having better relationships and I'm able to communicate with people. I thought I wanted more social media following. And so they think they want this, surface level thing. But when we start working and getting to the bottom of where the stress is, you would be amazed at what stresses people out and how quickly they can actually get rid of it. So it's fun to me because I'm always trying to help people have fun. And so I can be goofy, I can be myself. There's no like strict format that I have to follow. And I don't really know anyone else that's doing it the way that I do. So I get to set my own rules, which means that I get to help my clients set their own rules as well.
Wow. And how many years have you been doing this now, Tarlise?
Well, I started doing it 10 years ago, but I got certified 8 years ago. And it's really funny because not a single person has ever asked me for that, but I felt that I needed to get the training. So I've been doing it about 10 years and 8 years, technically, I guess you'd say.
Gotcha, gotcha. So
Yeah.
I'm curious. So because I'm thinking, well, what I do know in working with entrepreneurs so much over the last 2 decades, that at any given time, an entrepreneur has got a problem that they're
Yep.
dealing with. In fact, a lot of times it's several problems at once. And even when they get those solved or figured out, it's just a matter of time till something else is coming down the line.
Exactly.
And so, I mean, I've got a friend of mine right now who's getting ready. He's taking on this big undertaking. He's actually getting ready to host a trade show next year, and he's like, on any given day, he's like, Kevin, he's like, I am just like so stoked about this. And on another day, I might be like down here going, man, who do you think you are trying to pull something like this off? And like, this guy is a very seasoned entrepreneur.
Yep.
He's been an entrepreneur for years, very successful. And so knowing these ebbs and flows, I'm just curious, in the 10 years of doing this, you probably get even repeat business, people coming back to you going, okay, Tarlise, it's been a while since we worked together, but I want to talk with
I
you some
do.
more.
And not only that, that's the cool part too, but they're referring me to other people. They're saying, you have to talk to this girl, Tarlise. She can help you. I worked with a nurse that worked in the emergency room, and she's since moved to her own therapy. So she's giving therapy sessions, but she said, I just wanted to reach out and tell you the ripple effect that you've had. Now, when clients come in and they are just freaking out in the emergency room, I start using the tools that you've given me. And I thought, oh, that is so cool. So not only do they come back, but they're using it with other people. And so maybe it's with their children that are having fits, or maybe it's with their spouse that doesn't really get entrepreneurship and is like constantly harping them all the time. It's just kind of like, yes, they come back, but having them come back to me and tell me how they've shared it with other people in their life, I mean, that's a really cool thing too.
Yeah, for sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Awesome. Okay. So now that we've got a little bit of context
Yes.
set here, I'm going to reiterate the question for the benefit of the listeners. So, have you ever been introduced to a person that completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person? And Charlie, so I'm really excited to hear your story and your experience around
Yeah,
this.
absolutely. So I met this person 14 years ago, and it's funny that you just told the story about the person, having their highs and then going, who am I to do this? Because this goes
Mhm.
directly into the man's name is DP Gates.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with Bob Proctor, but he
Oh
is
yeah.
a student under Bob Proctor, has worked with Bob Proctor since he was about 18 years old, so 20 or so years. And what he taught me was self-image is a direct reflection of what we draw into our lives. We cannot outperform it.
Mm.
Our self-reflection and our self-image means so much. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that. They hold on to maybe something that someone said to them in their past. You're not good enough, or you're not pretty enough, or you'll never be able to do that. And they take that on as their own self-image instead of truly what they believe. And so you can say affirmations all you want. You can write them down and look in the mirror and rah-rah yourself. But if you don't actually believe that, your self-image, that's as high as you're going to perform. And I see it over and over because people go, who am I to do this? And then they stay there because their self-image isn't where it needs to be. And so I've kept that with me for so long because I have doubted myself a lot of times. And he always says, since self-image is everything, you have to have the power of awareness. So he always says, fear just lets you know what you need to attack, but doubt is crippling. So he said, it's okay to be fearful of something. That means you know what you need to push forward, move towards.
Mhm.
But when you start doubting yourself, when you doubt who you are, it's like you're cleaning the slate and you're starting at zero. And so when I go into something, I always have the power of awareness of who do I need to be in this moment to do this?
Yeah.
Sometimes in the present moment, you don't feel confident, or you're like, oh, I got to fake it till I make it. But when you can live in the end and think of who would the person that I want to be, how would they show up? How would they be standing? What would they be saying? Where would their hands be? Or what would they be wearing? And you can kind of live in that end goal. That's what's helped me so many times. You know, I've had some crazy things happen in my life. I've been in a near-death car accident. I had a flash flood at my house, totaled my cars in my house. Both of my parents committed suicide. I've been in and out of the hospital for months. And every single time I think, who do I need to be? And where does my self-image need to be to get through this?
Yeah.
Even laying in the hospital, I was like, how am I showing up when I'm healthy? What am I eating? What am I drinking? Who am I talking to? And I just saw myself as that healthy person, you know, getting past my mom and dad's death. I'm like, how would they want to see me happy? How could I help other people that might be going through the same situation? And it's not like you're ignoring the present moment or being naive and just going, la, 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 everything's fine. But it's really, you know, understanding that staying where you're at and allowing that doubt to cripple you, it doesn't actually serve anyone in the long run. Does that make sense?
Totally. Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you live in the end, or you live from the end, that's something that he always says. You know, I called him one day and I said, what do you do when you're afraid? He said, I do it anyways. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, fear is just showing you what you need to attack. Like, there's nothing wrong with fear. We all fear something. But if you start doubting yourself and you allow the fear to win, then no one wins, because you're not doing anything. You're not taking action. You're not failing forward. You're not figuring things out. You're just quitting. And so every time I start to feel that anxiety or that stress, you know, he's like, stress just shows you that your mindset's not in the right place. So where does it need to be? And this is something that's like muscle memory that, you know, you need to work on a little bit. But I always go back to that of when I'm feeling down or anxious or stressed, I say, where is my self-image right now? Where am I? Where is my confidence? If it's low, that's okay, because self-awareness is key. But it always, no matter what the situation is, I feel like I continually go back to that, even though he taught it to me 14 years ago. And it's really helped me through some of my toughest times.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. And Tarlis, did you say it was DP or DB?
DP is in Dylan Paul.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
And then oh, go ahead.
no,
Sorry.
no, you go ahead. I don't want to interrupt you.
So I was going to say, another thing that he also taught me was listening to your intuition versus your paradigm. You know, that's one thing that Bob Proctor teaches, is a lot of people, you get stuck in the paradigm, or like the loop of what you've been taught and the things that you do. And so those become your habits. When deep down inside, we have a hunch or a feeling or an idea that was put into our mind. And if you do believe in the law of attraction, I believe things are brought to you for a reason. You know, an idea comes to your mind for a specific purpose. And so if you trust your intuition and your gut versus your paradigm and your loop that's been running, then that's where, you know, the magic happens. That's where things progress forward. And so I have learned to, when I'm choosing a new goal, I always say, am I attacking this from my paradigm, from what I just have been doing because it's comfortable, or am I doing it because that's what I know I need to do? And, you know, when you start getting uncomfortable and you start getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, I think that's where a lot of the breakthroughs happen, because I know personally that fear, anxiety, depression, stress, like that's something that's a common theme amongst entrepreneurs. You know, it's like up and down all day long,
Yeah.
depending on, you know, what situation's being thrown at you. But if you have that self-image and you see yourself and you're like, no matter what happens, I'm holding on to this and I'm sticking with this, I feel like it can move mountains. And I know that sounds so cheesy, but I've just seen so many people that when their confidence is raised, when they have clarity and they find a community to help them, it's like sky's the limit for them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious. So you and DP met 14 years ago.
Yes.
And from all that you've just shared, it is obvious he has had such a profound impact on you and on your life, and ultimately so many people that you've helped over the last years, that you've been doing what you're doing, making your impact in this world.
Yep.
And so what is one or maybe two things that just really stand out in your mind that has happened sometime over the last 14 years as a direct result of the relationship that you and DP have had, that you know, hands down, would have never happened if not for this relationship that the two of you have had?
Well, when I first met him, I was making about $15 an hour, and since
Okay.
then, I've been able to do over $100,000 months, which not an income claim or anything. But if I did not have a self image of what I believed in myself, I would probably still be making $15 an hour. I
Sure.
wouldn't have worked. We were talking right before we would have been talking right before we hit record. I was saying when people go, oh, I work with clients over the world, I've literally worked with people in 21 time zones, and I think there's only 24. Like if I did not have that self-image, I'd be like, oh, I don't know where to find people. I don't know where to talk. I don't know what to do. And the reason that you and I are talking on this podcast is because I had a self-image of myself and I saw what I wanted to do in the end. And I put out a post saying, hey, I want to be on podcasts. I want to talk. And so someone referred you and I to each other. And I'd never had that before. I was just pushing buttons and working in a company, just doing what I had to do, clocking in and out in my 9 to 5. And I just didn't believe in myself. And so he's helped me not only from an income perspective, but from having courage to go and maybe raise my hand for things I might not have been qualified for a couple of years ago, but I was like, why not? Let's do it. I've been able to speak on stages across the world. I've been able to do some really cool things. And I would not have done that if I was still the shy girl working in a job, not really wanting to get myself out there.
Sure.
It's been life-changing. And I do believe because he has introduced me to, other influential speaker. I mean, people that aren't alive right now, but Neville Goddard and Bob Proctor and Thomas Trudeau and all of these people that have helped me, like, what in my downtime, these are the positive things that I'm listening to. And so I was like, what would I be listening to if it weren't for him? Who would be my influence? Who would I be influenced by if it weren't for this person? And so I'm continually tapping back into it. And we're still friends. And you were asking earlier, are there other people? Yes. I've been heavily influenced by a man named Kevin Nations. When I first started 15 years ago, he also helped me. He has been my mentor for a long time and pushing me kind of a little abruptly, but you can do it. And a gentleman by the name of Michael Hamburger, he's also been a great mentor to me. And he is the first person that introduced me to the power of your subconscious mind. And I still talk to both of those people 15 years later. It's very interesting that my 3 top mentors would be men or people that have like helped me, but it's resonated with me. And it's cool to have someone that believes in you and year after year is like, what are you doing? How are you pushing the envelope? How are you leveling up this year? And so having people that believe in you, I think is fantastic. But when I said I had to choose one, I was like, I think it's DP because he's continually helped me, regardless of the up and down, recenter my focus and keep my mindset right. Because I could have gone south a lot of times with the things that have happened in my life. And I just refused to because I knew that it wouldn't serve me.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And small world. I have worked closely with Kevin Nations over a couple of years as well, and yeah, Kevin's definitely had a profound impact on my life as well too. And
Yeah, it's very funny because he is actually the one that motivated me to leave like my 9 to 5. He was like, why are you doing this? You don't like sitting at a desk all day. You should do your own stuff. Why are you and I was like, you're right. He called it the factory. He said, why are you working at a factory? I was like, I don't work in a factory, but it got in my mind of, wait, I can work for myself. I don't have to answer to someone else. And so he's the very first person that put that idea in my head. And when I have just a couple of months ago, I was having some business issues. I was like, you would kick my butt into shape. Let's do this, but I appreciate that. I like people that aren't afraid to remind you of what you're capable of and how powerful you are. And I think that we all need more people like that in our lives, truly.
for sure. Yeah. Well, Charlize, I really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation to share. For anybody listening to this, that's like,
Yes.
man, Kevin, I just really like Charlize. I like the way she shows up. How can they get more information on you and what you've got going on?
Well, luckily my mom gave me a crazy name. And so I have all the Tarlese handles. So you can find me anywhere on social media at Tarlese. My website is also tarlese.com. I'm available via Messenger, Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever you want to find me. So if you type Tarlese in pretty much anywhere, I wouldn't say I'm the only person that pops up because now there are more, but I luckily grabbed all the domains and the handles.
Oh,
So
there you
you can
go.
find me wherever you're at.
Nice. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you, and thanks so much for sharing what you did. Any last thing you want to share before we call it a wrap, Tarlise?
Yeah, you know what? If you're listening to this and you're like, you know what, I've had self-image issues. I'm not very confident, or I'm doing the up and down. This sounds so cheesy, but one thing that's really worked for me is sitting down and writing a list A to Z of things that I believe about myself. So I'd say like, I'm amazing, I'm beautiful, I'm you know clairvoyant, I'm determined, and I go down the list, and you start to realize the ones that you don't truly believe, and then you come up with a solid list of that you do believe. And if you're ever like in a rut, or maybe you're nervous before a podcast or something, just start being nicer to yourself, start giving yourself some love. You would be amazed at, once you start putting that into your subconscious mind, how and you start to believe it, how much will change in your life. So if you are feeling down or you're stressed, I can help with that. But I'll tell you what, sitting and taking a couple moments to really think of how wonderful you are and just go A through Z, it'll really change your life, because it did for me.
Awesome. Well, Tarlise, thank you again. I really appreciate having this conversation with you, and I'm excited to share it with people. So thanks so
Oh, thank you for
much.
having me. Thanks.
Absolutely.